Lieutenant Commander Chen stared at the three-dimensional projection hovering above her console, the alien distress signal rendered in pulsating red light against the backdrop of unfamiliar star patterns. She cross-referenced the coordinates with Earth's classified stellar cartography database. The signal originated from the Cygnus arm, approximately 217 light-years from Earth. Computer, analyze signal composition and verify authenticity, Chen commanded, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The quantum processors of Sentinel-7 hummed quietly as they processed the complex data stream. Signal verified as non-terrestrial in origin, 99.8% probability of artificial construction. Language patterns inconsistent with all known human communications. The station's computer responded in its neutral voice. Chen activated the secure quantum entanglement communicator, technology that had remained classified even within most of Earth Defense Force. Only 7 such devices existed, connecting the most critical command nodes of humanity's hidden space infrastructure. This is Sentinel-7 to EDF Command. Priority Alpha. First Contact Protocol initiated. Requesting immediate consultation with Admiral Curry, she said, maintaining the calm professionalism drilled into all EDF officers despite her racing heart. The response was immediate. Acknowledged, Sentinel-7. Stand by for secure transmission. The wall screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Curry, Director of Earth Defense Intelligence. His dark eyes narrowed as he studied Chen's expression. Report, Lieutenant Commander. Sir, we've intercepted what appears to be a distress signal of definitive non-human origin, Chen stated, transmitting the data package through their secure channel. The signal contains mathematical constants that serve as a universal language primer, followed by visual data showing a civilization under attack. The Admiral's expression remained neutral as he reviewed the information, but Chen noticed the slight tightening around his eyes, the only indication of the momentous nature of this development. Analysis of the attacking force, he inquired. Preliminary assessment suggests a biomechanical fleet of unknown configuration. They appear to be systematically targeting civilian infrastructure after neutralizing defensive capabilities, Chen responded, highlighting segments of the visual data. The defending civilization's technology appears highly advanced, but they're clearly outmatched numerically. Admiral Curry was silent for several moments, the weight of history settling on his shoulders. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, the discovery of intelligent extraterrestrial life. They had not anticipated that first contact would come in the form of a desperate plea for military intervention. Lieutenant Commander, this information is now classified Omega Black. You will speak of this to no one, he finally said. Prepare for immediate extraction. The Phantom will arrive within the hour to bring you to Geneva. The Council needs your first-hand account. Chen nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Yes, sir. What about Sentinel-7? Standard protocols. The station will continue automated monitoring with a cover story about your emergency leave. Lieutenant Ramirez will temporarily assume your duties without knowledge of the actual circumstances. As the communication ended, Chen began the careful process of securing her findings while preparing for departure. Through the observation dome of Sentinel-7, she gazed at the distant stars, knowing that humanity's careful isolation was about to end. For 3 decades, Earth had secretly developed faster-than-light technology and built a stealth fleet designed to protect humanity from potential cosmic threats. They had hidden their advancements, monitoring galactic communications while remaining undetected themselves. Now the question facing the Defense Council would reshape humanity's future? Would Earth reveal itself to answer the call of a dying alien civilization? And if they did, could they survive the consequences of stepping onto the galactic stage? Admiral Harrison studied the holographic display showing the Vorax attack patterns, his weathered face illuminated by the blue-green glow of tactical projections. 29 years of military service had prepared him for many scenarios, but the fate of an alien civilization had never been one of them. The Vorax consumption rate is accelerating, Dr. Yamamoto pointed out, highlighting the spreading red indicators across the star chart. Based on the Eldari transmissions, they've adapted their assault strategy 3 times in the past week alone. General Rivera remained unconvinced. We've maintained our technological secrecy precisely to avoid being drawn into conflicts like this. The Prime Directive has served us well. This isn't a fictional television show, General, Harrison responded, his voice level but firm. We're talking about the extinction of a species that reached out to us directly. The chamber fell silent as Council President Adeyemi rose from her seat at the head of the curved obsidian table. Her dark eyes moved deliberately from one council member to another. Let us be clear about what we're discussing, she said. For 30 years, Earth has hidden its true capabilities from the galaxy. We've built a fleet in secret, developed technologies that rival or exceed what we've observed in other civilizations, and maintained a network of stealth observation posts throughout nearby systems. She gestured toward Lieutenant Commander Chen, who stood at attention beside the data terminal. Commander Chen's intercept confirms our worst fears. There are predatory forces in our galaxy that consume other civilizations. The Vorax trajectory analysis suggests they will eventually reach human space. Intelligence Director Okafor expanded the display to show long-term projections. At current expansion rates, even accounting for conservative estimates, the Vorax will detect our outer mining colonies within 12 to 15 years. If they continue their pattern of adaptation, our technological advantage may have eroded by then. Dr. Yamamoto adjusted his glasses. The biological samples transmitted in the Eldari data package indicate the Vorax incorporate genetic material from conquered species. Each victory makes them stronger and more adaptable. General Rivera's expression hardened. So this is about self-preservation then, not altruism toward the Eldari. It can be both, Harrison countered. Strategic intervention now may save both civilizations. President Adeyemi raised her hand, silencing the debate. We've had the arguments. A full fleet deployment would expose all our capabilities and potentially make Earth a primary target. No intervention risks allowing a threat to gather strength unopposed. She paused, considering. There is a middle path. The room's attention focused on her as she continued. A measured response. Admiral Harrison will command a small battle group centered on the Excalibur, 8 ships, enough to provide meaningful assistance to the Eldari while concealing our full military capacity. She turned to Harrison. Your primary objective is to preserve the Eldari civilization. Secondary objective, gather intelligence on Vorax capabilities and weaknesses. Tertiary, establish diplomatic relations with the Eldari, conditional on security protocols. Harrison nodded, understanding the delicate balance required. And our rules of engagement. You are authorized to use all necessary force to protect the Eldari homeworld, President Adeyemi replied. But you are not authorized to reveal Earth's location or the full extent of our fleet. As far as both the Eldari and Vorax are concerned, your battle group represents the majority of humanity's space-based defense capability. Lieutenant Commander Chen cleared her throat respectfully. Ma'am, The Eldari transmission indicated they'd been observing Earth for centuries. They may already have our location. President Adeyemi smiled thinly. Then you'd better give them a reason to keep that information to themselves, Commander. Your familiarity with the signal makes you the natural choice as first contact specialist on this mission. Chen's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected a field assignment of this magnitude. As the council session concluded, Harrison approached Chen. Report to New Zealand Oceanic Launch Facility at 600 tomorrow. Pack light. We'll be making history, one way or another. The bridge of the Excalibur hummed with controlled tension as the human fleet maintained their stealth observation position. Through the main view screen, the crew watched Vorax vessels methodically bombard sections of the Eldari planetary shield, the iridescent barrier flickering dangerously with each impact. Their attack pattern is systematic, Lieutenant Commander Chen observed, studying the tactical display. They're concentrating fire on shield generator nexus points. Admiral Harrison nodded. How long have they been sieging the planet? Based on debris field analysis and radiation decay from destroyed orbital platforms, approximately 73 days, responded Science Officer Kessler, her fingers manipulating the sensor data. The Eldari have lost 3 defensive layers since the siege began. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the comm system from the Hermes. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy fluctuations from the largest Vorax vessel. It appears to be charging some form of primary weapon. Time to enter session, Harrison asked. At current charge rate, estimate 28 minutes until deployment, Rodriguez replied. Harrison straightened his uniform and made his decision. We've seen enough. Lieutenant Commander Chen, open a channel on their distress frequency. Chen activated the communication array, her linguistics training evident in her careful pronunciation as she transmitted both in English and the phonetic approximation of Eldari that she had constructed from the distress signal. The response came faster than expected. The main view screen shifted to display an elegant chamber where several silver-skinned humanoids with elongated features looked up in visible shock. At their center stood a female figure whose ornate garments and composed demeanor marked her as a leader despite the clear surprise in her luminous eyes. I am Chancellor Illyria of the Eldari Concord, she said, her voice carrying a musical quality even through the translator. Your appearance is unexpected. Our monitoring suggested humanity remained confined to your solar system. Harrison stepped forward. Chancellor, I am Admiral William Harrison of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance. A male Eldari in military attire scoffed audibly. With 8 vessels. The Vorax field over 500 warships in this system alone. Commander Philander, Chancellor Illyria admonished gently before turning back to Harrison. While we appreciate your response, my military commander's concern is valid. We would not have you sacrifice yourselves needlessly. Harrison's expression remained professional. Before discussing our capabilities, Chancellor, perhaps I might share what we've observed. He nodded to Tactical Officer Park, who transmitted the fleet's analysis of Vorax fleet movements, weapon capabilities, and the calculated vulnerabilities they had identified during their cloaked approach. The Eldari tactical staff visibly stiffened as they reviewed the data. Commander Philander's dismissive expression transformed to one of grudging interest. How did you compile this? He asked. Our sensor arrays have studied the Vorax for decades without identifying these pattern weaknesses. Different perspectives yield different insights, Commander, Harrison replied diplomatically. Humanity has a unique history of analyzing combat tactics. Chancellor Illyria studied Harrison with newfound curiosity. You've been observing the battle without detection. The Vorax sensor network is extensive. We have certain advantages in stealth technology, Harrison acknowledged without elaboration. The conversation halted as alarms sounded on both vessels. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through with urgency. Admiral, Vorax scout group altering course. They've detected us. 50 ships breaking formation to intercept. Chancellor Illyria's expression showed resignation tinged with regret. I'm sorry, Admiral. The Vorax neural network has remarkable detection capabilities once alerted. You should retreat while possible. We will not think less of you for it. Harrison's calm demeanor never wavered as he turned to his tactical officer. Battle stations. Prepare to initiate Chimera protocol on my mark. He looked back at the screen, meeting Chancellor Illyria's gaze. With respect, Chancellor, we didn't come all this way to leave without introducing ourselves properly to the Vorax. The Eldari leadership exchanged glances of confusion as the human vessels began moving into what appeared to be scattered, defensive positions. To their experienced eyes, it looked like the desperate formation of those preparing for a fighting retreat, or worse, the disorganized panic of those facing an overwhelming enemy for the first time. They could not have been more wrong. The Eldari Command Center fell into uneasy silence as they watched the human vessels continue their seemingly erratic deployment. Commander Thilander shook his head slightly, centuries of military experience telling him he was witnessing the final moments of a hopelessly outmatched force. They show courage, if not wisdom, he murmured to Chancellor Illyria. Perhaps we should divert defensive resources to extract their crews when their shields fail. The Chancellor didn't respond, her attention fixed on Admiral Harrison's calm expression on the communication screen. There was something in his composure that contradicted the apparent chaos of his fleet's movements. Aboard the Excalibur, Lieutenant Commander Chen monitored the Vorax approach vector. Enemy formation maintaining cohesion. They're deploying in standard assault configuration, identical to their attacks on Eldari outposts. Harrison nodded. As expected. Status of Chimera grid calibration. All vessels report optimal positioning, sir, responded Tactical Officer Park. Gravimetric distortion fields charged and synchronized. Phase missiles armed and quantum locked. Harrison opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships maintain current positions. Weapons free on my mark, priority targets as designated. His voice remained measured, almost conversational. Remember your training. These aren't simulation drills anymore. The Vorax attack force entered the precise geometric pattern formed by the human vessels. To the Eldari observers, it appeared the humans had scattered randomly, creating gaps the Vorax were eagerly exploiting. Now, Harrison ordered. 8 human ships simultaneously activated their specialized systems. The space between them distorted visibly as overlapping gravimetric fields created a precisely calculated interference pattern. The effect on the Vorax was immediate and devastating. Their neural link coordination, which allowed them to function as a single organism across multiple vessels, experienced critical disruption. Target junction points, Harrison commanded as the Vorax formation faltered. The human vessels fired with surgical precision. Unlike the broad energy weapons the Eldari employed, these beams were tightly focused and modulated to frequencies that penetrated the Vorax bioarmor at specific structural weaknesses. Ships that had withstood days of Eldari bombardment cracked open under seconds of human-targeted fire. From the EDF Basilisk, Commander Walsh deployed the phase missiles, revolutionary weapons that existed in quantum superposition until the moment of impact, making them impossible to track or intercept. They materialized inside Vorax shield perimeters, detonating against vulnerable internal systems. In the Eldari Command Center, the tactical display updated with impossible numbers. 27 Vorax vessels destroyed in the first 90 seconds of engagement. Another 15 critically damaged in the next minute. The remaining 8 attempting to retreat, but caught in the human gravimetric web that prevented their faster-than-light systems from engaging. Impossible, whispered a senior Eldari tactical officer. Their combat efficiency exceeds 90%. Nothing in our records indicates. Commander Thalander stood transfixed, his expression a mixture of disbelief and dawning hope. They fight like no species we've encountered. Not brute force, but precision, efficiency. On the Excalibur's bridge, Lieutenant Commander Chen reported, "Sir, 3 Vorax vessels breaking free from the distortion field, retreating to the main swarm." Harrison considered this. Let them go. They'll carry valuable intelligence to their collective. Intelligence about us, Chen noted with concern. Exactly, Harrison replied. Sometimes the most effective weapon is your enemy's uncertainty. The Eldari Chancellor's voice came through the communication channel, her previously controlled tone now coloured with clear amazement. Admiral Harrison, I believe we have significantly underestimated humanity's capabilities. Harrison allowed himself a small smile. A common mistake, Chancellor, though usually made only once. As the human fleet regrouped, long-range sensors detected the main Vorax swarm altering course. Hundreds of vessels now moving with singular purpose toward the human position. Admiral Harrison studied the tactical display, his expression thoughtful rather than concerned. It appears we've been promoted from nuisance to threat, he observed. Chancellor Illyria, with your permission, I believe it's time we discussed combined defense strategies. The Vorax will adapt to what they just witnessed. We'll need to stay ahead of their evolution. The central chamber of the Celestial Harmony Station combined elegant aesthetics with practical function. Curved walls inlaid with what appeared to be living crystal housed advanced holographic projectors, while the transparent ceiling offered a sobering view of the planetary shield flickering under distant Vorax bombardment. Admiral Harrison studied the biological data displayed in the three-dimensional projection. The Vorax integrate genetic material from conquered species. Science Director Niven nodded, her slender fingers manipulating the display to zoom in on cellular structures. Their core biology appears artificial, engineered rather than evolved. Each conquest adds new genetic sequences to their collective. Weaponized evolution, Lieutenant Commander Chen observed. They're not merely conquering for territory or resources. They are harvesting biological advantages. Chancellor Illyria gestured toward another display showing the progression of Vorax expansion. They appeared at the outer reaches of our territory 11 standard cycles ago. Initially, we believed them to be another nomadic species seeking trade or knowledge exchange. By the time we recognized their true nature, added Commander Thalander, they had already consumed 3 of our border worlds, incorporating our phase shield technology into their vessels. Harrison exchanged glances with Chen. That matches the pattern we observed in their shield modulation. Eldari design principles adapted to their biomechanical architecture. Archivist Elindra, the eldest of the Eldari present, activated another section of the archives. In our long history as observers of galactic development, we've encountered 17 species with humanoid characteristics similar to yours. This has led some of our xenobiologists to theorize about ancient seeding of compatible life forms. The display showed records of various human-like species across 3 galactic arms. Chen studied the data with growing concern. What happened to these civilizations? Elendra's expression grew solemn. 13 are confirmed extinct. 3 exist as subjugated client species under various dominant civilizations. 1 retreated into isolated habitat spheres, severing all external contact. None developed as you have, Chancellor Illyria noted, studying Harrison with renewed curiosity. What makes Earth humans different? Harrison considered the question carefully. May I access your historical display systems? When Elendra nodded, he interfaced his personal data device with the Eldari technology. The holographic projection shifted to show Earth's historical timeline, the rise and fall of empires, world wars, nuclear standoffs, and finally the hard-won planetary unification of the late 21st century. Unlike the Eldari, who evolved toward peaceful cooperation, humanity's path was marked by near-constant conflict, Harrison explained. We came within moments of self-annihilation multiple times. The images showed devastated cities, nuclear explosions, and environmental catastrophes, alongside technological advancements and scientific breakthroughs. The paradox of human development, Chen continued, is that our greatest innovations often emerged from our darkest conflicts. Our medical technology advanced through treating battlefield wounds. Our space program evolved from missile technology. Commander Philander studied the war footage with professional interest. You turned destruction into a science. And then into an art, Harrison corrected gently. When we finally achieved global unification, we preserved our martial knowledge while tempering it with ethical constraints. We didn't abandon our capacity for warfare. We refined it, focusing it exclusively on defense. Chancellor Illyria's expression showed troubled understanding. While we devoted millennia to philosophical advancement and ecological harmony, you were constantly tested against yourselves. Forged in conflict, archivist Elendra murmured. Our historical models predicted that species following such a path would either self-destruct or become galactic conquerors. We never anticipated guardians. The conversation halted as a soft tone sounded throughout the chamber. Science Director Niven checked her console, her already pale features whitening further. The Voraks have adapted their attack pattern, she announced. They've redirected all vessels toward our position. Their energy signatures indicate configuration changes consistent with countering the human gravimetric technology. Harrison wasn't surprised. They're a collective intelligence. They learn and adapt quickly. We expected this. But our successful tactic is now compromised, Chen pointed out. Harrison turned to Chancellor Illyria with calm determination, which is why we never rely on a single tactic. Chancellor, with your permission, I need to communicate with my fleet regarding our next phase of operations. Commander Philander studied the human admiral with newfound respect. You anticipated this adaptation. You have countermeasures prepared. Commander, Harrison replied with a slight smile, anticipating enemy adaptations and preparing appropriate responses is the foundation of human military doctrine. We call it strategic depth. Never reveal your full capabilities until necessary. Space itself seemed to burn as energy weapons crisscrossed the battlefield, leaving ionized trails through the void. The human vessels executed complex evasive patterns while maintaining their defensive positions around the Eldari homeworld. Despite their tactical superiority, the sheer numerical advantage of the Voraks was beginning to tell. Basilisk reporting critical damage to propulsion systems. Lieutenant Commander Chen reported from her temporary station on the Excalibur's bridge. Commander Walsh has initiated emergency protocols. Admiral Harrison noted grimly. Status of the Orion. Weapons offline. Captain Navarro reports they're maintaining position using auxiliary power only. The Admiral studied the tactical display, where red indicators representing Vorax vessels swarmed around their position like an ambry hive. The initial success of their gravimetric disruption strategy had faded as the Vorax adapted, modifying their neural link frequencies to resist interference. A violent tremor shook the Excalibur as multiple Vorax beams converged on their port shields. Direct hit. Port shields at 17%, reported Tactical Officer Park, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. The Vorax are concentrating fire on our command vessels. From the communication screen, Chancellor Illyria's face showed both concern and determination. Admiral, we're deploying our remaining defense vessels to support your southern flank. Our shield technicians are also attempting to extend the planetary defense grid to encompass your formation. Appreciated, Chancellor, Harrison responded, steadying himself as another impact rocked the ship. Engineering Chief Discupta's voice came through the internal comm. Admiral, the primary power coupling can't take much more of this. We need to recalibrate the shield harmonics, or we'll lose cohesion entirely. Harrison made a quick decision. Divert auxiliary power from decks 3 through 7. Maintain life support at minimum levels only. As the crew executed his orders, Harrison studied the enemy formation with narrowed eyes. The Vorax were displaying new tactics, not just adapted defenses, but offensive coordination specifically designed to counter human maneuverability. They're learning from each engagement, Chen noted, echoing his thoughts. This isn't just adaptation, it's evolution in real time. Harrison's hand moved to a secured compartment beneath his command chair, accessing a communication device unlike any in the Eldari arsenal. The quantum entanglement communicator connected directly to Earth Defense Command, regardless of distance, technology that had remained among humanity's most closely guarded secrets. His decision had been made before the battle began, a contingency authorized by President Adaingi herself, to be used only if the situation became dire enough to warrant revealing humanity's true capabilities. Authorization Omega, Harrison spoke clearly into the device. Authentication Harrison Delta 79. Deploy Geordian program. Chen glanced at him, understanding the significance. The pretense of Earth having only 8 warships was about to be shattered. On the Eldari Command Center, alarms sounded as new energy signatures appeared throughout the system. Commander Thalander rushed to the sensor array, his expression changing from confusion to astonishment. Chancellor, multiple spatial anomalies forming at coordinates 734 through 982. Energy signatures consistent with artificial wormhole technology. Chancellor Illyria moved to the observation window, her eyes widening as space itself seemed to tear open in dozens of locations simultaneously. Through these precisely calculated ruptures came a sight that would forever change the Eldari understanding of humanity: warships. Not 8, but dozens, then scores, then over 100 vessels of various classes and configurations, each bearing the insignia of different Earth nations, yet moving with perfect coordination. Reinforcements have arrived, Admiral Harrison stated simply, the faintest smile touching his lips. Now we can begin the real demonstration of human warfare. The newly arrived vessels immediately executed a complex battle plan that had been prepared long before the first human ship entered the Eldari system. They attacked from 20 different vectors simultaneously, creating a 3-dimensional battle grid that surrounded and isolated Vorax formations. From the Eldari perspective, it appeared less like a military operation and more like a precisely choreographed dance. Human vessels moving in perfect synchronization, creating overlapping fields of fire and defense that trapped Vorax ships in mathematically perfect kill zones. For the first time since the Vorax appeared in their space, Chancellor Illyria allowed herself to feel something she had nearly forgotten: hope. The strategic planning chamber aboard the Excalibur had been adapted to accommodate both human and Eldari command staff. Holographic projections displayed the Helios and Proxima systems, the location of the primary Vorax staging area and processing facilities. The Vorax retreat has created a strategic window, Admiral Harrison explained, indicating the movement patterns of enemy forces. But it won't last long. Our intelligence suggests they're redirecting resources from 17 other fronts. Commander Thalander studied the tactical display with practiced eyes. A concentrated assault on their processing hub would disrupt their entire operational structure. But the defensive grid surrounding Helios Prime is formidable, even with your impressive fleet. Which is why we won't be attacking alone, Harrison replied, nodding to Lieutenant Commander Chen. Chen activated a secondary display showing a hybrid weapons system, Eldari phase shield technology integrated with human targeting algorithms. We've developed these modifications for Eldari vessels. Our engineers can implement them within 12 hours. Chancellor Illyria's expression remained troubled. The Eldari Concorde has maintained a defensive posture for millennia. Preemptive strikes against any species, even one as destructive as the Vorax, requires careful ethical consideration. With respect, Chancellor, Harrison countered, this isn't preemptive. The Vorax declared their intentions when they began consuming your worlds. This is protective intervention. Elder Councillor Varys, who had joined the planning session from the Eldari capital, spoke with measured concern. We have preserved life by avoiding unnecessary conflict for 12,000 years. This proposed action would represent a fundamental shift in Eldari philosophy. The debate might have continued, but Lieutenant Commander Chen's voice cut through with urgency. Admiral, I've completed the decryption of the Vorax transmission patterns we intercepted. All eyes turned to Chen as she expanded a new display showing communication frequencies and movement orders. They're not merely regrouping, they are consolidating. The Vorax Collective has classified us as an extinction-level threat to their species. They're abandoning 17 current harvest operations to focus entirely on eliminating both human and Eldari forces. The room fell silent as the implications settled. Eventually, Chancellor Illyria spoke. How certain are you of this interpretation, Commander Chen? The linguistic patterns are consistent with previous Vorax communications regarding priority targets, Chen responded. They've never abandoned multiple harvest operations simultaneously before. The collective perceives our combined forces as an existential threat. Admiral Harrison allowed this information to resonate before speaking again. Chancellor, I understand and respect your ethical traditions. But sometimes, wisdom means recognizing when another approach is necessary. Chancellor Illyria exchanged glances with her advisors before straightening her shoulders. Prepare your modifications for our vessels, Admiral. The Eldari will join your counterstrike. Within hours, a joint strike force assembled, 60 human warships alongside 28 newly retrofitted Eldari vessels. The journey through hyperspace was silent, each crew member aware of the historical significance of this first combined human Eldari military operation. What they discovered in the Helios system exceeded even the worst intelligence projections. 3 planets had been converted into massive processing facilities, their surfaces covered with biomechanical structures that pulsated with sickly light. In orbit around each world, captured vessels from various species hung suspended in enormous construction frames as Vorax drones systematically harvested their technology and biological materials. Most disturbing were the holding facilities, massive structures containing thousands of stasis pods, each housing captives from conquered worlds awaiting processing. The sensor readings confirmed the horrific truth. These weren't merely prisoners, but living genetic repositories kept barely alive while their genetic material was systematically extracted. "My God," whispered Captain Rodriguez from the Hermes, which had been repaired enough for this mission. "They're farming sentient beings." Commander Philander's normally composed facade cracked as he viewed the atrocities. This cannot be allowed to continue. The battle plan adjusted to prioritize the liberation of captives alongside the destruction of processing facilities. As the human Eldari fleet moved into attack position, the Vorax defenses responded with unexpected ferocity, immediately targeting the Eldari science vessel Luminous Seeker, which had been designated to document the processing facilities for historical record. Lieutenant Commander Chen, monitoring communications from the Hermes, recognized the danger seconds before the Vorax concentration became lethal. Without hesitation, she seized control of the vessel's helm. "Hermes breaking formation," she announced, moving to intercept attackers targeting the Luminous Seeker. Chen, return to position immediately, Admiral Harrison ordered, recognizing her intent. "Negative, Admiral. The Seeker contains critical evidence of Vorax atrocities. Scientific personnel only, no defensive capabilities." The determination in her voice was absolute. Someone needs to buy them time. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Eternal Radiance glowed with ceremonial light, highlighting the unprecedented gathering of species. Human diplomats in formal naval dress stood alongside Eldari representatives in their flowing ceremonial robes. The chamber's architecture, a perfect blend of sweeping organic forms and precise geometric patterns, seemed an appropriate setting for this historic alliance. Admiral Harrison, his dress uniform bearing new commendations for the Helios campaign, stood beside Chancellor Illyria as she addressed the assembly. Lieutenant Commander Chen, still recovering from injuries sustained protecting the Luminous Seeker, sat in a position of honor among the Eldari scientific conclave. "For 12,000 years, Chancellor Illyria began, her melodic voice carrying throughout the chamber. The Eldari have observed younger species, believing our path of non-interference represented the highest wisdom. Today, we acknowledge a profound truth. Wisdom sometimes means recognizing when another's approach contains insights our own lacks." The holographic displays surrounding the chamber showed the combined fleet's victories and the liberation of thousands of sentient beings from Vorax processing facilities. Most powerful were the images of human vessels taking fire meant for Eldari ships, and Eldari healers working tirelessly to save human casualties. "The alliance formed in battle will now extend to peace," continued Chancellor Illyria. "Today, we formalize the Human Eldari Cooperative, dedicated to mutual protection and knowledge exchange." Earth's representative, President Adeyemi, stepped forward to sign the historic agreement. Humanity emerged from isolation, not knowing what we would find among the stars. We discovered not just allies, but teachers and friends. While our paths of development differed, our fundamental values align: the protection of life and freedom throughout the galaxy. The signing ceremony concluded with an unexpected gesture. Chancellor Illyria presented Admiral Harrison with access keys to the Great Archive, the most comprehensive collection of knowledge in known space. "For millennia," she explained, "we have observed and recorded the rise and fall of civilizations, the development of technologies, and the evolution of cultures. This knowledge has been our greatest treasure, and now it belongs to humanity as well. In return, Admiral Harrison presented the Eldari with something equally precious: Earth's complete genetic database and medical knowledge. "While you collected wisdom of the stars," he said, "we mastered the art of adaptation and healing. Together, we offer the galaxy something neither could provide alone." Later, during the reception, Lieutenant Commander Chen found herself approached by Archivist Elendra, who now walked with a ceremonial staff denoting her new position as head of the Joint Historical Commission. "I've been studying your actions during the Helios campaign," the elderly Eldari said. "Your decision to protect the Luminous Seeker at great personal risk has become a subject of much discussion among our philosophers." Chen smiled modestly. "It wasn't a philosophical decision. It was instinct." "Precisely," Elendra responded. "When faced with a choice between self-preservation and protecting others, humanity's instinct trends toward protection, even of those you barely know. This quality is rarer in the galaxy than you might imagine." She gestured toward a newly installed exhibit in the chamber's antechamber. There, in a place of honor, was a display showing the Herms interposing itself between the Vorax attackers and the Eldari science vessel. Alongside it was a simple inscription in both human and Eldari text. "Because that's what makes us human. We protect those who need protection." "Your words have been added to our lexicon," Elendra explained. "Many young Eldari now study what your people call humanities, not just your technology, but your philosophy, your art, your capacity for both conflict and compassion." As the reception continued, long-range intelligence reports arrived showing Vorax swarms in retreat across multiple sectors. The hive mind, having calculated the odds against the new alliance, had chosen to withdraw to distant regions of the galaxy to reassess and possibly evolve new strategies. Admiral Harrison studied these reports alongside Commander of the Lander, whose initial skepticism had transformed into professional respect. "They will return eventually," the Lander noted. "The Vorax Collective does not surrender territory permanently." Harrison nodded. "And when they do, they'll find us better prepared. The combined research teams are already developing countermeasures based on what we learned at Helios." Chancellor Illyria joined them, observing the starfield visible through the chamber's transparent ceiling. Some of those distant lights were human colony ships, already en route to help rebuild devastated Eldari worlds, while others were Eldari vessels headed to Earth to establish cultural and scientific exchanges. "The stars themselves seem brighter tonight," she remarked. "Perhaps it is merely perspective, knowing that humanity walks among them, not as the destroyers many feared you might become, but as the guardians we never realized we needed." From a nearby table, President Edaimi raised her glass in a toast that would be remembered in both human and Eldari histories. "To unexpected allies and new beginnings. May we learn from our differences and grow stronger in our unity."